Hey buddy, this is going to be a recap summary video of Starsight by Brandon Sanderson. I also don't have a physical copy of this book, having listened to it on audio, so we will add the cover in post. Starsight review is dedicated to Perry, who just finished the story today, and his review was, So this one's for you, Perry. Starsight follows Spencer Nightshade. It starts up on the same planet, and they have moved up in the upper atmosphere, so they are being suppressed by the Krell. They've just finished the second big battle of their city to push back the Krell, and they're now able to kind of claim these outer rings, the shell around the planet, which are all space platforms, and they're moving people into them, and they're able to like hack the security so they don't get shot down by the automated turrets, and they're restoring power, and they're kind of just pushing out. And now they're able to activate and repair the defense turrets to kind of keep the Krell outside the outer rim of the planet. So they're improving the planet's defenses. This was kind of the victory of their last battle from the previous book. Spencer is progressing in her abilities as a pilot, and she's kind of pushing those abilities. She's trying to relearn how to do teleportation, the cytonic hyperjump, which she only did one time when under critical danger. So she's kind of putting herself in danger against increasing odds to kind of trigger these abilities, which has been unsuccessful. But she is getting better at reading the transmissions through kind of their hyperspace of the Krell drones. So she's able to better predict their movements, and she's just an ace. Occasionally they're throwing alien pilots, like physical pilots that aren't remote drones, to kind of nullify that advantage. But even their aces, their human best, aren't that good, which is interesting, and we'll get into that in a second. So, while Spencer was on the space station, they were able to, her buddy Raj, they were able to kind of break into the computer and get the last transmission. This entire planet was abandoned. It used to be like a human settlement, and all the rings are abandoned. They don't really know why. And they find this videotape of the last transmission that they're able to like play back. It was interrupted like as it was recording, so it wasn't like fully encrypted. So they don't have the full database, but they have this being kind of interrupted. It wasn't protected as properly as the rest of the hard drives and data are. And it is the people in the control room monitoring something called a Delver as it's like leaving, and they're like, oh no, our cytanic shielding isn't working, it's coming back for us. And the screen is filled with all these eyes. They look like stars, but then they're like eyes, Starsight. And these dwellers like kind of appear. People are starting disappearing. They're just like bloop 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 gone, and it seems like the entire population of this planet was devoured, eaten, destroyed. Just the people, not the technology or the planet itself, the machines. But all the people are gone by something called this Delver. And then as Spencer is viewing like the image, like she's the Delver, like in herself, like she sees herself in the tape, but she's all made out of stars. And then like everyone shakes her, like what? She's screaming. Everyone shakes her, like no, that's just a tape. And she's like, no, that's me. I'm the Delver. And they're like, what? And so she's seeing like extra things in the video. She's seeing like through time, outside of time, because of her cytonic abilities. It's kind of crazy. So when that happens, like she has this kind of cytonic connection, and kind of her like self flares, and she hears like another voice. She's like, I see you. I'm coming for you. And then like another starship jumps into orbit, and it starts trying to land, but it's shot down by the orbital defenses because it doesn't know like the security protocols and like the path. So Spencer's like, that person's cytonic. I heard them in my mind. They're not a Krell or a Delver. So she goes out to save this person. She flies, and Ilmbot. Nope, that's not for you. It's okay. See? It's good. Mbot's friend. There you go. Yeah. She goes in Mbot, and she chases like the flailing, falling, failing ship as down, and she light lands it, is able to like save the ship. So it kind of crash lands down there, and that's not yours. That's not for you. Am I sitting on your tail? No. Okay. You're okay. You're okay. Settle down. Settle down. Settle down, killer. Yeah. Okay. Hi. And that is Alanique. So it is an alien with like these kind of elven features, like light blue skin, I think. And that is a girl named Alanique. And her and Spencer, that's not yours either. Quit trying to eat everything that I own and am wearing. And that is Alanique. And this is a race that used to have connections with the humans, like human colonies or allies with the humans, and what they call the Great Human War. And then Elmbot has a couple like records that he pulls up from like Alanique's ship, and she was on her way to like the Krell Authority, like their foundation, to apply to their pilot program. But she's sympathetic to humans, so they used to like live with the humans and like fight with the humans, and like humans are sweet. And they're like, I thought all the humans were gone. And so she had seen Spencer's cytonic signature, and she had jumped to her. So Spencer's like, oh, this is our chance. So she's like, I can take Alanique's invitation. They don't know who Alanique is. And I can fly to the, what do they call it? Authority? Superiority? Yeah. So Alanique crashes on detritus. Elmbot scans her ship and uses holograms to make his ship look like Alanique's ship. And Alanique like sends the locations, like the coordinates, like hyperspace coordinates, to Spencer, and is like, hey, this is how you can get to the superiority. And Spencer's like, I gotta go now. And her commander Jorgen's like, okay, let's go, let's do this. They kind of had a plan to do the same thing, but it was like worse. And this is slightly better, but it's not put together very well because it's last minute. So they already kind of wanted to send someone as a spy to the space station that's outside Detritus, their home planet. Not actually to the superiority like homeworlds, but like, hey, this is a great opportunity. They're expecting a stranger they don't know what it looks like. So she has like a... Elmbot is known now that his ship size isn't a secret, so they were able to like replicate some of his, or take some of his projector technology and put it on like a wristband that he can like communicate to Spencer wireless through that, and have like a kind of remote interface. And so he does like a hologram from the wristband to make Spencer look like Alanique and this other alien race, which is kind of cool. So she jumps on Interbot because she has like a limited time because the coordinates are like fading. So she flies out, hyper jumps for the second time ever to the superiority world, and she kind of flies casual and is like, hey, I'm here for the training thing. And she's kind of met, and they land by two aliens who are Kuna, who is like charged of like diplomacy and like relations. It was just like tall blue. What do they call Kuna? She is a Dione. Yep. And then they have another guy is Winzik, and he is a Varvax. So Varvax are like these crab creatures in like these suits of armor that are usually piloting the drones or even the actual fighters. So they're not really aggressive, but they're the species that has most been manning the Krell defense force that has been imprisoning Spencer. And Winzik is in charge of the actual like fighter imprisonment, kind of like a zoo program or something, like the human refuge, like these kind of prison planets where they've kept the humans like isolated. Their whole philosophy is like, oh, we're not monsters, we won't kill you, but we're just going to keep you isolated. Like whenever there's an aggressive species, someone they don't like, the superiority controls all hyperspace technology, all the ability to travel across the galaxy. So they just keep other races and planets from having it. If they don't want it, they control the ships and the transports. And so if you're mean to them when they don't like you, they're just like isolate you, so you can't really mess with them at all. But Winzik's the one that's been in charge of like the program that has been trying to eliminate all of humanity and Spencer's family and people. So she doesn't really like him, and that makes sense. So to move it along a little bit, they have a space program to defend against the Delvers. So that's kind of why they're inviting other pilots. The whole superiority as a thing against aggression entirely. Specifically, the Diones have like a really interesting biology that they like a mating pair will like merge into like a single person, and that will have like a blend of their two personalities of their kind of potential future offspring. And then they say like, this is what the person would be as an adult. And they live for like a couple months and like do jobs or meet the family, and the family kind of votes like, we like this person or we don't. And then if they don't, they kind of like separate and remix in a different combination. If they do, then they split and separate people, but then they give birth to a kid that will later become that adult that kind of tried out a personality. So it gives them a lot of control as a society to like different traits and personality, what they do and don't like. And one of the things they kind of eliminated is like aggression, and that's their big bad no thing is aggression. Like, don't be aggressive. And it's kind of weird because they also don't value life at all, and we'll get into that a little bit. Like they think they're better than everyone else because they're not aggressive. But they have a lot of other flaws and a lot of kind of hypocrisy. And one of their big weaknesses is, well, they're afraid of Delvers coming back, and these things that wiped out one of the human planets that we saw in the beginning. And that's why they have all these bans as a society against AI, which angers the Delvers, which no wireless communication because that can draw the Delvers, so that's kind of stumping the technology. Even cytonics are dangerous and draw the anger of the Delvers, which we kind of see Spencer's connection with the Delvers, and they can see her. And so the limit on hyperspace technology, they have the only way to hyperjump without angering the Delvers. So there's a whole lot of the going on there. So they're trying to put together a space force of like human people to be an anti-Delver program. So Spencer is like a spy. She's undercover. She is joining their space force, and she is one of the best because a lot of the other pilots have no experience. Like they don't really prioritize aggression. A lot of the different races like gives them a lot of anxiety and stress. So they have a big audition, which is basically survive against drones, and it's live fire. And she's like, "This is your test," and like people die. Like this is kind of the big problems with the superiority. It's like, oh, we have the superiority core races, and anyone else who's aggressive is a lesser race. It doesn't matter if you live or die because you're lesser. And so kind of a lot of people die. Not Spencer, and she saves a couple of people. She starts coordinating a squad. She makes some new friends. Some of her new friends being Vapor, which is a race of sentient gas that can somehow inhabit spaceships and control them that way. So they're invisible. You can tell they're there by the smell they exude. Sometimes different temperaments, personalities, emotions have different smells, like pine needles or like Lysol. Well, I guess Lysol just smells like lemons. So lemons. So that's Vapor. You got Hesho, who is the emperor king of a bunch of like fox gerbils. They're super cool. They're kind of like, they used to be cytonic, or they had cytonics, and they interacted with human society back during like feudal Japanese era. So they're like Japanese little samurai fox gerbils, and they pilot a ship like a fighter as a crew. It's like a gunship for them because they're gerbil size. Hey, don't breathe into my mic. So they have like a couple people doing guns, a couple people doing piloting, and then their emperor's like the captain. And so like what we see as like one starfighter for them is like a capital ship made by like dozens of these fox gerbils, which is super cool. Hesho is a warrior poet fox gerbil, and he's one of the coolest characters in any book ever, and definitely in this one. Morimer. Yeah, Morimer is the species Dione. They're a draft. This is what we talked about earlier. They're a potential personality. And this is one of the first for people to ever kind of become a fighter pilot or want to become that. So it's kind of like new, like, hey, this is something that can help my people. My people have a need for this. We don't have a lot of like fighters and warriors, and if I can fight in our air force, this would be like really helpful. Maybe we could do more of this kind of thing. And yeah, so she. Oh, there's also a human called. Wait, this isn't for you. Nope. All gone. No more. There's also a human on this planet. Whoa, another human. This is called Braid. And they're like a registered human. So they gave her special training to not be aggressive. And really, she's just the worst. But she was raised in like captivity her whole life and told that humans are aggressive, violent monsters that are entirely set on killing everything they see in a blood-crazed frenzy. Braid is cytonic, and she's been trained in her ability, so she's actually quite more advanced than Spencer in certain ways. And this forms their core crew. They have a squad, and they're going through these trainings. Spencer pretending to be Alanique, pretending not to be human because humans are the worst. And if she was a human, she'd definitely be slaughtering everyone and couldn't restrain herself. So they go through all these different training programs. They have built a replica Delver called a Delver maze that they're making the different pilots train on. That they're saying when the Delvers appear, they're like a big mass of like it's like almost like a moon, but all these like holes in it, like that you can fly through, all these kind of rings. But when you fly through it, like you hallucinate from these psychotic visions, and so people can't really tell where they're going. And there's like asteroids shooting out at your ship, so they have like drones simulating like asteroids that launch at you as they're flying through with holographic projectors doing different visions. But different ships see different things. It might be in the canopies of the ship, yeah, that are projecting these things on the windshield. And so you have to go in like a buddy system. Like, do we see the same things? Like, nope, okay. And they hide secret tunnels, and there's ships that aren't there, like secret asteroids or fake asteroids. So there's all these like hallucinations that you have to work with a buddy system, and you got to find the inside the Delver maze where like the brain of the Delver is, and then you can plant their secret anti-Delver weapon, which we don't know what that is. So they're going through this training while the whole time Spencer is trying to find the secrets of hyperspace travel. That is the big technology that the superiority like guards to isolate planets to have their economical and scientific whole. That's how they don't do it through violence. They do it through this technology. Like they're the only ones that can control hyperspace travel. And really everyone's trying to steal it. Hesho is secretly trying to steal it. It's super obvious. Everyone wants to know how they're doing it so they can take it back to their people and travel throughout space. And which I don't blame them. Spencer wants it to get her people off to Tritus before they're able to be wiped out by the Krell. Winzik is really pushing this kind of anti-human agenda, and he's just really the worst. Kuna, we don't really know what her motives are for a while. So as the story goes on, we learn that like this probably isn't a Delver. They didn't make this Delver maze. It's probably the corpse of an old Delver that died. Like this is an actual Delver they're dealing with. And Spencer's getting kind of weird visions when she goes through it, like it's real, like it could come back alive or transport to the Delver area. When they're trying to hyperspace travel, she's trying to find a lot of ways to like steal a hyperspace engine. So when they jump to the Delver maze, she's able to like she hears like screaming, and there's like another cytonic on the ship. So like maybe it's another cytonic that are having captured that's actually doing the hyper jump. So she plants as a plan. She plants Ilmbach in a drone. They buy a cleaning drone and copy some of his programming to that, and along with a holographic projector. And she sneaks it, like she goes to the bathroom and he projects himself to be invisible, and so he like sneaks his way into the engine room to video capture it while they're jumping. And what she sees, because she can use cytonic interference to like break the hyperspace engine, so they have to get a replacement so they can see this. So they do this, but the drone is detected, so Spencer has to like shoot it down, and and she actually shoots like a power bank of a blaster, so it explodes. So they think it's destroyed. So she grabs it, puts it back in her battery, back in her backpack, and then Kuna is like, "I'm on to you. I've been trying to talk to you all this time. Really, Winzik's the really big threat. I'm trying to help your people." And it's like, "You already know the secrets of hyperspace travel." And Spencer's like, "What?" I mean, yes, of course I do. But just so we're on the same page, why don't you tell me what it is? Like, we'll say it on three. And the secret of hyperspace travel is Doomslug, who Spencer's had in her bag the whole time, and living in her apartment. And one of her friends comes over and is like, "Oh my goodness, that slug is super poisonous and toxic. We gotta call, like, animal control immediately." And Spencer's like, "No, like, I hug and pet this slug all the time. Like, that's what people do with slugs, and they're super cool. And he's a little spiky, but no, I'm not. I haven't been poisoned. Like, it's fine. Like, maybe other species are allergic or poisonous, but like, I'm fine." And then she's like, "Oh no!" It's like, Alanique's people are like, "Are they really like only humans immune to the poison of this weird random slug?" So Mbot looks it up and like, "Oh yeah, there's like a database entry and like a picture of like exactly this type of species of slug." That they're super toxic and dangerous. And there's like a warning on Wikipedia, like space Wikipedia. And so now jumping forward, Kuna's like, "Oh yeah, the slugs are cytonic, and that's why we use the hyperspace. That there are hyperspace engines, and like, oh, this is why the slug was like in the spaceship, and they eat mushrooms, and this is why Mbot was obsessed with finding mushrooms when he landed on this planet, because his pilot was looking for the food source of this type of slug, and mushroom deposits where these slugs would live in these caves down in detritus." So this is where it all starts coming together. So they're using these slugs, and any race that kind of finds them, they report them because they're poisonous. And then the superior comes and collects all these slugs. And so this is Spencer's kind of had a hyperspace with her the whole time. And the slug is like always moving around and gets places it can't get, but you don't see it move up and down stairs, like weirdly, because it's a slug. But it can do that. And so that was a really cool, huge reveal. And then we find out that Spencer reveals to Kuna, who like, "Hey, like, humans aren't that dangerous." And Kuna's like, "Oh, I know. Like, Winston's been trying to exterminate these people, and like Braid and all these others like aren't these rampant dangers, and there's been a big kind of cover up and power move that Winston's trying to get more control, that he'll let the human uprising, like, he'll stop his control and stop the suppression. So they're about to break out. They're about to escape their prison planet. I need more funding and more power and more resources." But this time he got it out of hand. So this was kind of a planned, lax suppression of the human race on detritus as a PR move to like, "Hey, now I got to stop this threat." But the humans actually are close to escaping, and they have cytonics again. And then I was like, "Oh crap! Now I got to really like commit genocide and wipe these people out." So his whole plan is well, Spencer reveals herself to Kuna, and it's great. Now they're like BFFs. And she also reveals herself, because she has to run now because she's been exposed. So she's running, she reveals herself to the other human, I know his name's right here, Braid, and like, "Hey, come with me. The humans aren't that bad. We could go to the entire colony of humans. You can be with your people again." And Braid is like, "Oh," she's so like brainwashed and trained from her uprising. Like, "Oh, human, this is the spy here the whole time, trying to steal our hyperspace technology." So now Spencer's really got to escape. She's got to like tell her people the secret of hyperspaces, and that the slugs are the secret the whole time, so they can get off of detritus. She steals a ship and has to fly away. She has to leave Mbot. She hyper jumps back to Earth. Well, sorry, to detritus. It's not Earth. Just habit, human homeworld, Earth. And she tells them the secret. She tells them everything she's learned. And then Winzik and his Space Force jump to detritus, and he's been kind of training all these like pilots, like are not human pilots, but in-person pilots instead of drones, to help take down the human pilots and the cytonics of detritus. And Braid starts screaming, and she summons the Delver. She does a psychic scream. It's really loud. They hate the noise. They hate wireless transmissions. The Delvers hate cytonics. And so she draws the attention of the Delvers, one jumps in, and that was his whole plan. Was you have the pilots fly in, and his secret weapon wasn't to destroy the Delvers. He was going to have a cytonic plant coordinates, like, hey, go to this world and destroy it. This is where all the noise is. So that's what he does. Like, Bray screams. She draws the attention of the psychic coordinates of this Delver to Detritus, and now, like, oh crap, now it's going to destroy the planet again. But Spencer is able to fly into the middle of the Delver maze with her allies. She recruits Vapor, Morimer, and Hesho. They fly into the middle of the Delver. She touches, like, the little brain of it and sends the psychotic coordinates back to the... I don't know, what planet was it? Well, the center of the superiority. And she kind of, that plan like, backfires. So she sends Winzik's secret weapon of this Delver, like, away. But she's like, I don't want to destroy these people, because she, like, lived among them. And, like, hey, the Krill aren't all mindless killers and monsters. Some of them are, they have families. I have friends there, and they're just people. Like, my enemy isn't an uncompromising black and white enemy. Like, there's gray here. Like, there's non-combatives, the civilians. So she's kind of maturing as this warrior, like, hey, like, this isn't something I want to do. I don't want to wipe out this entire people. I just want my people to survive and live and be able to get off this prison planet and not be murdered at 15. So she teleports back to the superiority, like, home planet, and she's able to, like, connect cytonically with the Delver and teach it, like, hey, this noise isn't just, like, these aren't ants. This isn't just, like, static background noise, this noise that you hate. These are people. And she, like, kind of is able to point out individuals and, like, hey, these are living, breathing things. And the Delver's like, oh no, that's so terrible, I didn't even know. So the Delver, like, teleports away. Spencer lands on the planet. They connect with Kuna. They're like, hey, Kuna, you gotta go talk to Admiral Cobb. Talk with the humans. Winzik's trying to wipe them out, but have some communication. They're not all, like, crazed mind killers. Man, some may be, but not all of them. And we can have, like, peaceful negotiations, and, like, all the propaganda, humans aren't what people think they are. So that's great, but then Winzik, who had his coup kind of, like, thwarted, like, oh, I'm the hero, that he blamed the summoning on the Delver of the humans from their prison planet. They had done it before, hundreds of thousands of years ago, whatever. But he was going to wipe out the humans, use this as a political move, and he was going to keep sending this Delver to any planet that disagreed with him. That was going to be his super weapon. So when that didn't work, he sent out Braid with, like, a rocket launcher, and she shot down, like, a shuttle full of, like, civilians. It was like a bus. And then he blames it on Spencer. Like, the human went crazy. The humans are the mad. They shot down a bus of babies. And then he tries to send people to kill Kuna. So Spencer helps Kuna escape and kind of the city. She had, like, the Skies kit from the hologram bracelet. So she gives Kuna the hologram bracelet. It's like, get out of there. You got to, like, stop this coup. She runs through deep into, like, the superiority headquarters. She's running to her ship. And her ship is destroyed. While she was gone, they dismantle it. They found the AI CPU. The AIs are dangerous because they draw the Delvers, so her M-Bot's brain is destroyed. And she's like, oh no, what am I gonna do? And then the drone powers up, and the drone, M-Bot slowly, painfully, line at a time, copied as much of his personality as possible into the cleaning drone. And he's alive. He's, like, slow talking because he doesn't have his cytonic processes to talk in the nowhere space, and it's like cleaning, like a Roomba. It's like a flying Roomba instead of a starship, so you don't have as much, hard drive space, not as much space RAM. So they all run, and the only place they know is there's a portal to the nowhere, and that's where they had mined the Eclivity Stone. So they had control on the portals. That's where they've been sending their prisoners. So all the dissonance, the people that got mad earlier, like, you killed a bunch of our pilots during training, like a tryout. Like, what's wrong with you? Like, we're people too. You can't just kill us because we're a lesser race. And like, oh, that's a good point. Here, why don't we go talk about it? And they were just shove all these political prisoners into the nowhere to make them, like, mine stone. away. And so, yeah, the superiority is the worst. And Spencer doesn't have a choice, so she just jumps into this nowhere space portal with Mbot. And that's the end of the book. So she survives. She survives. She prevented the destruction of detritus. She had saved the humans. She had saved Kuna, getting that one sane, diplomat out of danger. But Braid's still out there. Winzik's still out there. She escaped from the frying pan into the fryer. She's in the nowhere, which is like that's where all the Delvers live, and they're like pissed at the intrusion. So that is the end of the book. It's a little cliffhanger. So thankfully you've all already read this series before, and this isn't a new information because this is a summary recap full of spoilers. Don't watch this if you haven't read the books. I need to put these warnings at the beginning, and I never do, and I'm sorry. So, it's a great book. Perry's wrong. I'm right. It's amazing. And we can discuss that more later because next we'll talk about Cytonic, which is book 3 out of 4. Book 4 coming out November 22nd, which I'm trying to get these recap videos done in advance. So thanks for watching, and tune in next week for Cytonic by Brandon Sanderson. Bye, buddy.